Welcome back, loyal fight fans, to another epic round of boxing. Please give me the thumbs up button for these videos. I work very long and hard on them for you, even incorporating some editing here as much as humanly possible for me, an absolute dinosaur with technology. And lastly, but possibly most important of all, if you know a friend, a family member, maybe even a crazy ex-girlfriend who enjoys combat sports, especially boxing, tell them about this podcast because I am sure they'd love it. And before I forget, if you've shamelessly been watching these videos, please hit the subscribe button already. What are we waiting for? We're waiting to take flight. That's what we had, a huge weekend in boxing, and as the thumbnail promises in the pictures, we are going to touch on each and every one of these epic fights on all these different cards that took place over the weekend. The first one we're going to talk about is the return of the Bronze Bomber, Deontay Wilder versus Robert Helenius. Oh my God, Deontay Wilder, what vintage Wilder fashion, knocking out Robert Helenius in the very first round. Unbelievable. I'm pretty sure, now this was an extremely vicious KO. I saw a stat that said he only landed 3 punches, only the one was really needed. And this was so brutal. Just out, really, like mind gone, but eyes open, just laid out on the floor. Poor Robert Helenius. I'm pretty sure that if you slow the video down, you might actually be able to see Robert's soul kind of coming out of him before it comes back to his body. But yeah, this was fucking fantastic, man. What a return. I literally don't see how a big return of a star in boxing could go any better than this. Also, for as short as it was, I would like to say something I could take away from this that might be missed on other people talking about boxing here is that, facing Robert Helenius, Helenius is not a bum, right? But he isn't Andy Ruiz. He isn't Anthony Joshua. Certainly not an Usyk or a Tyson Fury, right? And these are kind of where Deontay is floating around the very top of this division with those guys. So this would be the fight that you'd want to try new things that you've been incorporating in the gym, as Deontay also sparred 733 rounds in preparation for this goddamn fight. I mean, unbelievable. But yeah, he did try something new out here. You know what he did? He fought going off the back foot. He waited for his opponent to come in and countered him. Helenius basically moved him around to get Wilder into the corner. And then, as Wilder expected, now I'm in the corner, he's going to come at me. What happened was the forward momentum that Helenius used to just trying to run and bombard into Wilder as he was in the corner. The forward motion of that, and Wilder throwing that right hand at the same time as Helenius throwing those punches. It's the ones you don't see that really flash you like that. And especially, you can be flashed like that even without having the absolute atomic bomb in the right hand that Deontay Wilder possesses. I just love this return, man. I don't want to get too deep into it, but go check out the post-fight interview. He broke down crying a bit. Some people mistake that because it kind of transitioned from talking about, hey, I hope Robert Helenius is all right because they're friends, former sparring partners. But a lot of people miss this. He's actually talking about this kid, Colon, who I believe his name was Richard Colon. I know his last name's Colon, who is a boxer more recently that got put into a coma in real bad shape after his fight. And that is when he broke down crying, and a lot of people thought that was about Helenius. That is not true, but it was kind of formed off of the thought of them asking, with him saying, I hope Helenius is all right a week or 2 weeks from now. But yeah, the post-fight was good. I just think these days we're getting a more stoic, kind of matured version mentally of Deontay Wilder. Not as much the guy, saying, I want to catch a body in the ring. I think he's just so appreciative of how the fans, including myself, appreciate him. Even in the loss to Tyson Fury, you don't need to make excuses. These are just these important things are the boxes that Deontay Wilder checks. Even in those losses to Tyson Fury. And he's just great, man. The heavyweight division is for sure better with this guy around. You know, Wilder has the 5th most consecutive title defenses in the history of the heavyweight division in boxing, which is 10 title defenses. Before that first loss to Tyson Fury, I believe he was going to surpass Muhammad Ali's title defense run as well. Just incredible, and yeah, the way he caught Helenius moving in. I mean, what Wilder fashion to just polish this guy off in vicious fashion in the very first round, the opening minutes here. It's unbelievable. Glad to see him back. Glad to see how fantastic of a win that was, and in the way that he did it. And Helenius is not a bum, but the thing is if you said, you know, oh, Wilder should, you know, he's not the hardest test, and so Wilder really, shouldn't, you know, hang around or lose rounds to this guy. Well, he didn't. This couldn't have been any more quick and easy for Deontay Wilder. So he checked all the boxes on this return. I'm not sure how an A-class star in boxing and a long-awaited return, I'm not sure if it could have possibly gone any better for him. And then let's talk about Caleb Plant versus Anthony the Dog Durrell. So Caleb Plant is not a puncher, okay? But he finishes off Anthony Durrell. I believe it was the 9th round, with a beautiful setup, liver shot left to the liver shot to the body, and then goes on kind of a half beat. Not a direct upstairs left, but waits just half a beat like that and then throws it. And that is a big part of the reason why Anthony Durrell was caught in the way he was. And again, it's the ones you don't see that get you. And the off rhythm kind of punch of waiting just half a beat and going again and bringing it upstairs was just fantastic, fan friendly. And I mean, goddamn, I got to tell you too, there's a lot of talk online about this guy with the shovel, with Caleb Plant, you know, acting like shoveling dirt onto the unconscious Anthony Durrell in the ring. Fuck every last one of you. I loved that, and it's not because I'm not a casual boxing fan. I'm not a stupid person who just sits there and drinks and goes, just bleed, or some kind of weird thing. That's not me. That's not me, but this was where that kind of thing was needed, and I'm going to say that. This was exactly where that sort of thing was needed, because if you want to bring in race, right, into it, which I've heard Anthony Durrell say, hey, pull up the video, you can't find it, that he said, I'll never lose to a white boy, but he was very disrespectful, and when you bring up certainly like race, or when you just are just so disrespectful in general, you don't say, hey, I'm so much better than this guy. That's normal. This guy doesn't belong, and that kind of trash talk is normal, but when you push it to another level, and you talk about race, someone's family, you talk about anything along those lines, you talk about the guy's a bum, I just hate him, you talk about hatred and hating a man and so on and so forth. The absolute shit talk that Anthony Durrell laid out before this fight with Caleb Plant was just, it was so fucking justified, dude. You throw it. As a matter of fact, I have a problem with the referee stepping in and trying to push him away for doing that. Let him do it. Let him do it. He's not assaulting him when he's down. He's throwing some salt on the wounds, and that's for all the trash talk. And the thing is, in this sport, you can have trash talk. It doesn't matter if you like trash talk, if you prefer it in your press conferences or not, or you like a humble fighter. It doesn't matter. You prefer whatever each individual fan prefers, but the fact of the matter is that trash talk of a vicious level will happen in boxing, whether you like it or not. And the only thing that can make people think a little bit about how they're trash talking their opponents, or the words they choose to use when doing that, the only thing that will make fighters guys who get punched in the face for a living rethink, maybe at least take a second thought about doing it or saying something, is to be humiliated in this sort of way. And I just wanted to get that out of the way. But yeah, it was just absolutely fantastic knockout for Caleb Plant, who again doesn't hit hard. He's not a puncher, but still gets the best KO of his career here against Anthony Dirrell. I want to see Caleb Plant versus Benavidez. Those guys hate each other. This falls right in line with the kind of fights that Caleb Plant tends to have with people with these press conferences, where they just hate him to death for some reason. But yeah, these guys have been warring with each other, Caleb Plant and David Benavidez, for so long, and I need to see that. I need to see that fight, man. And here's another thing. Caleb Plant's a very slick boxer, very good technically, and Benavidez can box a bit too, but is extremely fast, has a gas tank that never ends, and he can hit hard, and he never stops letting his combinations just flow. Never once afraid to let his hands go. Never had 30 seconds in a ring without letting his hands go. So I've wanted to see this fight for a long time, but the only thing would have been that I would have told you, I bet Caleb can win some rounds just off of being a kind of a almost better, he is a slicker boxer for sure. Great head movement, all that. I bet he can take a couple rounds, but I would have leaned Benavidez. And now I'm not going to say that it's completely changed my mind, but it's really made me want to see this fight even more, all the more, because what Caleb Plant showed here as a guy who's not a puncher, who likes to stay on the outside and dictate the range of the fight, was willing to have an absolute almost gross-looking fight with takedowns and boxing, like laying on top, knocking each other, pushing each other over, wrestling with each other, and fighting dirty boxing on the inside. He did that all throughout here, scored the knockout, and looked great doing it as well, and showed even before that knockout that he can take some shots if he needs to, right? And he doesn't, and he showed that he can fight on the inside and dirty box, which he hasn't really showed a lot of before. He kind of lived and died on the technique and the range and the distance management, but this showed that, and that's the kind of fight that Benavidez likes. And it just spiced this even more for me. I really need to see Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez for sure. 100%. That's what I want next. If you're not gonna, he was talking shit outside the ring afterwards as well, after shoveling dirt onto the unconscious body of the dog Dirrell there. Then he went over to the ropes and talk some shit to Charlo. Charlo, if he moves up in weight, that fight would be absolutely great too. But the number one fight I want to see now is Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez. Then we had Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall on the all-women's card, which is very historic. The very first time in boxing that there has ever been an all-women's showcase. The entire card of women boxers, female fighters, and it did deliver. It did deliver. This fight wasn't nearly as good as Taylor Serrano. I'm going to say that right now. That was historic. But this card was historic that it was all women, and the fight certainly did not disappoint. That main event was good, but before we get to that, let's hear your takes in the comments about the co-main event of Alicia Baumgardner versus Michaela Mayer. I almost kind of was leaning Michaela Mayer to win that fight, but I was already telling myself might be a draw. Very close fight. This fight's a reason why we need 3-minute rounds and not 2-minute rounds in women's boxing. That's like the direct reason, just a lack of time to figure out who could have edged this fight, really, because it was very close. I would have been happy with the draw, and that being said, they gave it to Alicia Baumgardner, and what is our rule that I've talked about many times on this show, and if you want to be a boxing fan, you must abide by it. You can disagree with everything I say, but this, you cannot scream robbery at the top of your lungs. You have to reserve that for the many times that you will see actual robberies in boxing. So again, we always say this fight was close, and if I thought that Mayer edged it, or you thought that Baumgardner edged it, or we met in the middle and thought could be a draw, you cannot be mad either way it goes. The 7-3 scorecard for Michaela Mayer is just simply not right. So that's a blemish. Of course, we have that, that judging card in there too, because it's boxing. But yeah, great fight, very close, and I'm not unhappy about it, especially because you know what, dude, Michaela Mayer was expected to win this fight. Even if I thought she edged it, I thought she'd have an easier time doing it. And she didn't. Alicia Baumgardner kind of deserves this simply for coming out of absolutely nowhere. I'm going to say this. Nobody really knew who she was until her last fight when she beat Terry Harper, who's on the pound-for-pound list of women's fighters. Did that as an underdog and stopped her on her feet. Hit her so hard she made Terry Harper turn her back to her on her feet and put her hands down. The ref stopped it, as he should have. And that, like, out of nowhere performance propelled her into won her over in the hearts and minds of fans. And then we get this one against a true test against Michaela Mayer, who was a big favorite in this fight. And she pulled it off. I'm happy for her. And Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall. Absolutely epic. Great fight. Again, I do want to be clear and not have a recency bias here. I thought for sure that the Katie Taylor-Amanda Serrano fight was better, but this fight was very good. If you watch the video that was received very well in this channel, I did a couple months ago when this fight was supposed to happen. A lot of those things kind of played out a little bit, but I did pick actually in a little bit of an upset here, even though the odds were just about dead even for this fight. But I almost did kind of lean, Savannah Marshall to maybe actually pull this basic, you know what I mean when I say upset off of the greatest woman of all time boxing, but she didn't. And the reason that was able to happen, the reason that Clarissa Shields, I believe, if you want one reason, not the many breakdowns of technique going on moment to moment throughout this fight, but the one overall most important thing that I saw Clarissa Shields do was smother the work of Savannah Marshall. Because Marshall hits extraordinarily hard, one of the highest KO rates in female boxing for her, even with the less rounds and shorter minutes in each one. Still has a fantastic KO rate. But you know what? She's long, and she needs a little bit of torque on those punches, and she likes to have the distance. She does use good head movement, Savannah Marshall, but she likes to not do it like she did in this fight, where she's right up in close and Clarissa Shields winging hooks at her when they're just about, toe-to-toe, chest-to-chest here. So what she likes is Marshall likes to have a little bit of that distance so she can slip something and get the full extension on her punches. And what I saw was, Clarissa Shields come in here with a girl that's notorious for hitting much harder than her, and Shields, as great as she is, possibly the greatest woman of all time in boxing, right? Well known that she does not hit very hard. She does not have a big KO ratio. So for her to walk down, she's a better boxer kind of all around, right? And she has great combination punching and things like that, Clarissa Shields. So a lot of people thought maybe she can use the jab, outbox Savannah Marshall here and win that way. That's not what happened. She went the other way with it that I hadn't heard anybody talk about, where she pressed right into Marshall constantly for every minute of this fight and smothered her work so she could never get full extension on her punches, Savannah Marshall, stayed right there, head in her chest, and winged those hooks, and the 50-50 exchanges turned out to not exactly be that way, because even when Savannah Marshall take one little step back and try to let something go, I mean, Clarissa Shields was on her like white on rice, so couldn't even get that little gap in space. And I thought that was a big key to her victory. I wanted to say that. And congratulations to her. It is too bad. I mean, and this was a great win for her, by the way. So if you want to say she's the greatest female fighter of all time, I won't take argument with you. This win was very good, kind of pushing her over that hump a bit. I would still lean Katie Taylor, maybe because I'm Irish, so I'm biased, but I just think the resume is still better, but this one is a huge one and moves her up a bit. The hammer win wasn't bad too, so you kind of got two big ones there. It's just that there's not a lot in that weight class, and down where Katie Taylor is, there's a lot more. And by the way, Alicia Baumgardner and or Michaela Mayer, they're separated by only 5 pounds from Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, so those girls can mix it up at some points. Lots to be excited about in this sort of a renaissance period for female boxing. And then the last fight, and also possibly the least, though, honestly, is the Devin Haney versus George Kambosos. The fight that was never needed, you guys. I mean, no one in the world buzzed even a little bit about this fight before or after it happened. That being said, congratulations to Devin Haney. He is one of the best fighters in boxing, though it's going to be a tough road for him, man. First off, the only reason this fight took place is because of contractual agreement. The only reason the first one was able to happen when Kambosos pulled the upset over Teofimo and had all those belts is he said, Devin, I'll give you the shot at the belts, but you need to come over to Australia, and in this contract there's a rematch clause. Not only a rematch clause, but it happens here again in Australia. And Devin Haney did the right thing. That's what he needed to do to get the fight. Knew ahead of time that he'd win that fight kind of easily, and won like 11 out of 12 rounds, for God's sakes. And this fight basically did the same thing again. We gave you the pick of this fight going the distance, and Devin Haney getting a unanimous decision. That's exactly what happened here. I don't know exactly what in the hell. I saw a great again, Boxing Gems, a channel on YouTube to go check out. That will never let you down, and it's very technical. The breakdown videos of the technique used in fights. So he did a great piece. I encourage you to check out about how Devin Haney interrupted the stance switching from orthodox to southpaw of George Kambosos. But I don't know why he was doing that anyway. I guess it was just because he knew he can't outbox Devin Haney. He knew that he might get knocked out if he pressed too hard to just make it dirty against such a elite talent in boxing as Devin Haney, and I just felt bad for the guy. I don't know that he had much to offer, so he just tried kind of that, and it didn't really lead anywhere. This will be a tough road for Devin Haney to really be appreciated as well, I think, because the slight little nuances he's doing in there with his distance management, dude, that is Devin Haney's biggest asset. He's not, and of course he uses some head movement, of course he's got enough footwork, but nothing is ever dynamic. And his punch selection's good, but he doesn't have a lot of power. He can throw combinations, but doesn't tend to a lot, and just kind of jabs people's head off. And then he's just doing these subtle things. Nothing's that dynamic. So when you look at it, it's just like, if you don't know what you're looking at, you'd be frustrated and say, why can't people do something more to this guy? Well, it's because he's so goddamn good at controlling distance and range and using that jab to do so. And slight movements, footwork. He knows when he's just out of the way of a punch, or just, half of a big toe in distance to land his own jab, even if he has to reach a little. He's just great at that. If we see a him and Lomachenko fight, boxing hardcores should wet their pants for that if you like technique at all, and it's two different contrasting styles of great technique, but both incredible boxers. I hope we get to see it, but who the hell knows. Until next time, loyal fight fans, it's been fun. This was a big weekend in boxing. We'll do another video here. The Unknown to Casuals is still coming out. It's been recorded. I intentionally waited to release it later on this week being as we had the all-female card, and this Unknown to Casuals episode that will be coming out is about female fighters, I pre-recorded it last week, intentionally saved it for this week and made that choice. So I hope you go and check that out when it drops. I'm always very proud of those. And I'm proud of you, loyal fight fans. Keep watching boxing, even if we get some shitty scorecards or some fights we didn't need to see. It really will pay off here and there, like that Plant Durrell fight was just great.